I think it's a perfect essential.
The one thing I have a problem with this movie about, and I think you don't agree with me on this, but is the fashion show. It just seems like being in Technicolor, and it's 5 minutes it goes on with Adrian, the great designer, doing it. It doesn't advance the story, it doesn't do anything. It just seems to kind of and the movie is long enough as it is. I just think it kind of takes away from the movie to kind of stop for this fashion show, particularly putting it in color, because then you have to adjust to the color, then you have to adjust to going back to black and white again. And I once did talk to George Cukor about it. And
what did he say?
Well, the wonderful thing about George Cukor was the fact that you knew him, but I think you knew him as a child, basically.
7 years old.
Yeah, is the fact he loved film, and he loved people like me who would ask him about film, because he loved to talk about that. And he never liked that sequence either. He felt it got really in the way of the movie.
I think when I watched it, ultimately, it sort of affected me in that way of, you know, if these women were in this black and white world, you know, as we're watching them, which obviously they weren't, their eyes see color, it sort of brought me into, like, this is how they escape everything that's going on around them as they dive into this Technicolor world of fashion. And it sort of made me feel the way I thought maybe I would feel if I was a woman at that department store watching this fashion show, that I would forget about my life for a minute and get into the dreaminess of the color of this, you know, these sets and these dresses and these scenarios of these women playing tennis or, you know, sitting in the trees and, you know, as they did in the fashion show. So I sort of definitely got lost a little bit in the fantasy and wondered if that's what women did, you know, in that time, because we still have fashion shows today, you know, runways.
I think I would accept it more if it was in black and white. I think the jarringness of the color and then going back to black and white reminds me I'm watching a movie, where heretofore you kind of get involved in all these snappy goings-on and you kind of forget you're watching a movie.
I definitely, when we went into the sequence, was like, wait a minute. This was a black and white movie, but coming out of it was much more difficult.
Yeah, the only time I thought it really worked was, of course, Wizard of Oz, because then it takes you into a Technicolor world, and so that's logical.
Yeah.
And Oz was something out of a cartoon, practically, you know. And but it did bother me with that. And I think it's a very, very well-made movie. Other than that,
and interesting, as you as a man thinks it gets in the way of the movie, and me as a woman watching it goes, oh yeah, this is what we need to escape our, you know, own heads for a minute.
Yes. Well, we move on. Coming up, a sneak preview of next week's edition of The Essentials. Breathless, 1960. Nobody in the 60s had ever seen a film like this before.
Well, there are no rules in the way that this film is made.
Jean-Paul Belmondo is such a charismatic actor in this film.
Jean-Luc Godard is such a massive influence on filmmakers today.
From 1960, Breathless. That's next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can find out more at TCM.com. Thanks for joining us for The Essentials.
Tonight on Turner Classic Movies, June Allison's husband becomes an ex thanks to Joan Collins in The Opposite Sex. Then Ginger Rogers and Kate Hepburn exchange quips around the stage door. And TCM Underground packs a hatchet for the honeymoon.